and welcome to the Senoia Area Historical Society Museum's 10th anniversary celebration. My name is Beth Young. I'm the current program coordinator as well as a volunteer docent here at the museum. Today I'm going to be chatting with a few prominent locals and asking them to share their unique perspective on life in Senoia as well as your connection with the museum. Today we've got Scott Tiglar with us. Scott is president of Senoia Enterprises Incorporated. And Scott, I know you and your family really are largely responsible for a lot of the commercial growth in Senoia over the past 10 plus years. Tell us a little bit first about what brought you to Senoia.
Well, back in the 80s, Georgia had a pretty robust film industry, and my uncles were in the film industry in California and wanted to build a studio here in Georgia. So Senoia was the place they ended up building that studio. It was called Riverwood Studios. That was in 1989 that it opened, and over the years we developed a good working relationship with the town because of its proximity to the studio. It just became a natural backlot to production companies that were filming there that needed a little town that had storefronts and, you know, cute houses and things like that. So a lot of films used the town as a backdrop over the years. I was here in the early 90s working at the studio. I left and went back to Canada, where I was from, for 5 years, and then came back in 2003 to run the studio. And we got a tax incentive passed in Georgia. And during that process, we had an opportunity to buy up most of the vacant land, commercial land, in the downtown of Senoia. So we did that in 2006, 2007, and we started a redevelopment project with the downtown. At the time, there was only about 5 or 6 businesses on Main Street left.
My goodness. Well, I have to say on a personal note that when my husband and I moved here, what we see as Senoia downtown is due a lot to your company. You've done a wonderful job of sort of marrying that old and new architecture together. What would you say, Scott, is maybe your proudest achievement since you've been working here in Senoia?
Probably it's a combination of a few things. The success of what's happened, and that's in those, not just our efforts. It's been a team effort to make what's happened happen. But we went from 5 or 6 businesses on Main Street to about 85 now. We're building more. It's leasing up. Senoia's really kind of gone through a renaissance period, and it's a quaint, charming, pretty little downtown that is attracting a lot of people to move here and set up businesses here. That couldn't have happened without the city working with us, the original stakeholders trusting us enough to sell property to us. I think over the years a lot of people had come to them wanting to buy land in the downtown, and they just didn't have enough of a comprehensive vision to do anything that would transform the downtown until we came along, and just a whole bunch of stars aligned. All these families were interested in selling at the same time. The mayor and council were interested in seeing some progressive change and growth in the downtown, so they were very accommodating. Our Downtown Development Authority was going from, very little in scope to starting parades and really creating a lifestyle, little Norman Rockwell-esque lifestyle here in town. And all of that just kind of came together to create an opportunity for us, and we tend to get a lot of credit for it, but create an opportunity for us to work with everybody to transform the downtown. So the success of what's happened in just 12 years, if you look at the before pictures and where Senoia is today, and hopefully, where we envision it going in the next 10 years, that's a rare opportunity to be a part of something like that and create that significant a change. So we're very proud of that.
Excellent. I know here at the museum we are tasked with preserving history and actually promoting it here at the museum, but we realize that we have to partner with others. A city can't thrive or survive without moving forward. So we so appreciate all that you've done, and we thank you for your time today.
You're welcome.
Allow me to introduce Bill Wood. Bill is the owner of Katie Lou's Cafe on Main Street. He's a former Senoia City Councilman, as well as a past treasurer for the Senoia Historical Society. You and I have sort of an added connection as well, because our families moved to Senoia from Birmingham, Alabama.
Yes.
In fact, you and Jennifer were two of the first people that we met in town, so that was really reassuring. Tell us a little bit first about what you would say Senoia has to offer folks like us who move here.
Well, it's friendly. The residents all welcome you. We felt welcome when we first moved in. We still feel welcome, and we've been here 20 years now. Yeah, we just found it as a very comfortable place to be.
And I'm sure you consider the museum an important part of that as well.
Yes, of course, our home was just down half block down the street, and we got involved just after moving here. We came to the first, they have a fundraiser Christmas gift auction, and that was very enjoyable. It was a great way to meet other people. We had moved to town in August, and so that was December, and it worked out great.
And I'm sure you've seen many changes over the years in the museum.
Yes. When we got involved in 2001, trying to raise funds to, at that time, it wasn't air conditioned. The roof needed to be replaced. The fire chimneys were in very bad shape. And so we made a lot of effort to expand the fundraising. We hosted it at our home, a progressive dinner where we increased substantially the number of attendees. The house is very large, and we were able to do 40 at a session. And so we had 2 sessions a night. And previously it had been like 20 at 2 sessions a night. So in 2001, we went to 80 each night. And then in 2002, we had finished our edition, and we were able to go to 80 each session, so 160 each night. And it really did help kickstart the fundraising for the museum.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for your service to the Historical Society, both you and your Claudia and your family. Thank you again for your time today.
You're welcome.
Hi, with me now is Ellis Crook. Now, Ellis is one of our guests who can say he was born and raised here in Senoia. I'm going to look at my notes for just a minute because I don't want to miss any of this. Mr. Crook, I understand you are not only the owner of Crook's Marketplace, Crook's Tire Pros, Crook's Hit and Run Convenience Store, the new Addy building where the Crescent South Insurance is located, as well as the food outlet in Noonan. I'd say you're a very busy man.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your decision to write your memoir, Senoia Boy, and maybe give us a sneak peek about what we can expect.
About writing my memoirs?
Yes,
That's
sir.
what you asked?
And a little something in the book.
Okay. I never intended to write a book, number one. But I started typing history about Senoia somehow. And it started way back a long time, got quite a while ago. And each time I think a new idea come up, I'd say gets time, I'd sit down because I'm a typist from way back. I got put in the hallway of school because I was picking a typing teacher. How in the hell I ever learned enough typing, I don't know. But she put me in the hall because I was picking out about a boyfriend. But anyway, I've been typing a long time. I started typing this book. These are historical points about Senoia, about the old timers that lived here, and all about the jokes they played on each other. Now, a good one was the mayor was at that time at one time was Billy Roselle. Now they need a policeman for Senoia, and they were interviewing this guy for a policeman, and didn't have any hired at all because he couldn't afford nobody. Billy Roselle told him to go in and try the suit on. If the suit fit him, well, he'd hire him. That's where I came about. That's how Senoia went way back. And on top of that, there's other instances about some of the old timers, how they played jokes on each other. And one guy was riding by the depot, the old Central Depot downtown at that time, and SAHS Cleveland was a depot agent, a one-armed fella, and he could type with one hand. He's a right typewriter. And he saw Dr. Tinsley had come by to see him. He had a nice circle, a nice ring on, a diamond ring. And SAHS Cleveland wanted to say, how much you take for that ring? Doc told him a figure. Cleveland bought the ring. Well, Cleveland got proud of his ring, went to Newland to check his ring out, see how much value it was. Couldn't find out it was a zircon. No good at all, no good value at all. So Cleveland played his time along. He just thought Doc come by one day and he waved him down. He said, Doc, I got a mule I need to sell you. Okay. Yes, I gave it a good price. So Doc took him up on the price of the mule. He said, send William over there to get it. I'm going to send William over there to get the mule. He got over there to get the mule. It was a dead mule. So that's how kind of they played on each other around here. It's so I got quite a history about the old timers. Some of it my daughter and my nephew deleted because I said too much about them. But anyway, there's a lot of joke, a lot of history in the book about the old merchants in town. What happened on Christmas Eve in town. Throwing firecrackers up and down the street, shooting them. Tied the mules behind town where they would run. People come to town in a wagon with the feet hanging out the back, swinging feet on the back of the wagon. I described there how you kill a hog. It's described in the book, how you process and kill a hog, which we did on the farm right there where I live. Because I started picking cotton when I was a picture of 6 years old. I was in the cotton field. By the time I was about 12, I picked 250 pounds one afternoon. Because I got behind. I got 125. I got behind the school principal was carrying 3 rows. My dad was picking 3 rows, and I was picking 3 rows as we went. So I worked in the fields growing up, plowed a mule, picked cotton, milked cows. Oh, these people at school would come out, some classmates would come out to a barn where I'd milk a cow and sit on the plank right there above where I'd milk the cow. I tell you, that cow's didn't squeeze it. She'd have right in the face with the milk.
As you can see, our guest is very lively and full of wonderful memories of Senoia. Mr. Crook, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it, and we look forward to reading it ourselves. It's Senoia Boy. Joining me now is Nancy Roy. Nancy is the owner of Carriage House Antiques, as well as having the distinction of being a charter member of the Historical Society. You and your team also provide the wonderful refreshments that we have at our monthly meetings every month.
Oh, thank you, Beth.
What are you most proud of the museum and the society since its beginning?
Well, I'll just say that I've always been an advocate for history. And moving here in the mid-70s, was involved with the 1976 bicentennial celebration that the city had in town. And from that, just a few, if you don't mind my saying so, newcomers got together and said, this is such a wonderful place, we need to just revive the history of it and keep it safe. And so we started meeting just in the little tiny city hall in the evenings, and all of us had jobs away from home, if you will, and so we couldn't do that much in the evenings. But as we started meeting, then some of the people whose families had lived here forever then got a little bit interested too. And as we progressed with restoring the history, then some of these people that had always lived here and took for granted what they had, if you will, started bringing little mementos to us. And so we didn't have any place to put them. And of course, we had no money to speak of either. So eventually, the board for the Historical Society decided it was time to invest in a building of some kind. And this particular house became available, and unfortunately it was in pretty bad disrepair. And so it took a long time in raising funds to get the house paid for and to do repairs on it at the same time.
Sure.
And with that being said, we always had in mind that we needed a place for a museum. And so that's where we are today.
Oh, that's
And
fantastic.
it's wonderful. It's a real big dream of mine to have a museum for this community and visitors to enjoy. And
now it's a reality.
it is a reality. And thankfully, there's been, as it was originally started, there's been new, younger people moving into the community, which has been great, because if you don't have new, young people interested, it will die away.
Sure.
And so I'm thankful for that.
Yes.
And for you, Beth, to
Thank
be
you.
so interested and give of your time. And obviously, Maureen, who has been here for about 10, 11 years, I think.
Yeah.
And so she just jumped on the bandwagon, she and Jim both. And so when we finally got around to having the house complete enough to where we could have a museum, not that there's not still ongoing projects, which I guess there will always be.
Sure.
But then she graciously stepped right in to the role of being our museum director, and has done a beautiful job with it.
We're so grateful to have her.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Nancy, for your unique perspective
Oh,
on
thank
the
you.
museum and the society. Thanks for your time today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm always happy to share the Historical Society.
Excellent. It is my pleasure now to introduce Harold Simmons. Harold is the city manager here in Senoia and has been, I believe, since January 2017.
Yes, that's
You
correct.
grew up here in Senoia and also served in the United States Marine Corps from 1980 to 1989. We certainly appreciate your service,
Thank
Harold.
you.
As city manager, what would you say the value is of the museum to the city?
Really, I don't even know if you can measure that, because the museum to me links me with the past and the future. There are some people who see history as something they walk through a building, they look at it and say, it's fine. And they walk out and they leave and they tell someone, oh, I saw history. Then you have the people whose heart is in it and they want to save that, they want to preserve that. So for generations, we can look back and see where we came from and where we are today. And when you can put that in one building for people to come and enjoy and walk from document to document, I'm looking at your wall there, the Old Town Senoia. That's history that if we don't preserve that, will not be here for the next generation and generations to come. So how do we know what we got right and how do we know what we got wrong if we can't document that and hold on to it? So I think that when you look at the museum, it is not for people to say, wow, you know, it was messed up back then, you know, because things change. I think that people should look at history and say, what can we learn from it so we don't make the same mistakes? What can we look at and see who were the founders of Senoia and how we got here? So to me, I can't even measure the value of what this museum means to the city of Senoia and me personally, because it brings people in town who have people have come here and from walking around town and looking at this place have said, I want to live here. And they come in and bought homes and said, I bought a home here because of the history and because of the friendly people who we meet up and walking up and down the streets.
Well, it's so clear that Senoia is in wonderful hands with you as manager. It's a wonderful partnership when you value the history, but also you're very active in what's going to be coming in the future. So we thank you so much, and thank you for coming today.
Well, and I thank you guys because to dedicate your time to this is not easy. Because everyone can tell you when they're sitting on the outside looking in how to do something, or what you should or shouldn't do. So when you volunteer your time to make this place what it is, it brings great value to the city. The tourists get to come here and they get to see what the city looked like 20, 30, 40 years ago versus today.
Yes.
It's a blessing to me in order to see this here, and the lovely people who have nothing but smiles when you walk in the door, and they're eager to tell you about the history. They just don't leave you alone. They walk with you and teach you and tell you the story that's behind the story of the picture on the wall, which you don't get without the love and the care of the people who run this place.
Oh, thank you so much, Errol. Thank you. And thanks again for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Maureen Schuyler has been the museum's director since day one, July the 18th, 2010. I know that you've seen a lot of things come and go and changes that have been made during that time, but what would you say have been the most significant changes in the last 10 years?
Oh my gosh, Beth. Gee, when we opened 10 years ago, we had a handful of artifacts and a lot of photos. But we didn't just decide in July of 2010 to open the museum. It was always the dream of the charter members, back as far as 1977, to have a place to showcase Senoia's history. That's why they purchased this building in 1990. We used it for meetings and events. And then in 2010, when we got serious about opening as a museum, we did a lot of research and a lot of planning. And with Nancy Roy by my side, who is a charter member, our small little committee would work and go through boxes and files and say, Nancy, who is this person? Or Nancy, where did this artifact come from? And she knew all the answers. So we labeled and described everything, and then we came up with some policies so that we could operate in a professional manner. And when we opened those doors, we felt sure that we had a really good beginning for a showcase for Senoia's history. But I know what you asked me was about the changes in the last 10 years. And in the last 10 years, the building alone has a new roof, so it doesn't leak. And our floors have been shored up so our artifacts don't shake on the shelves anymore. And we have an access ramp that is a really good thing for a lot of our visitors. It's made a big difference. And an updated bathroom. And then we used our archival photographs to be able to reproduce the railings and the balusters on the front porch of this grand building. And all of that is the building, but inside the building, it's been just as drastic. I'm going to give you 3 examples of a change. Try to imagine this museum without a single black lighted display case. I mean, we have them in every room. And they didn't show up until 2014, thanks to the generosity of Callie Weldon. And back in 2011, we had a simple, single tribute to Sergeant Eddie Couch, who gave his life in Vietnam. And that little tiny tribute has grown to become 2 full cases of memorabilia and photographs from any Senoian who has served our country. And that exhibit is ongoing to this very day because, as you know from doing tours, we will tell people, if you have a loved one who has served, we would be honored to display their photo or their memorabilia. And that's something we can be really proud of for sure. And the third and the last thing is this room that we are sitting in as we're filming today. Is our research library. It's got a wonderful map in it and other things, but this was until 2012 a storage room full of rusted metal shelves. And look at us now. So it's the changes. I wish you could be a part of the changes as they happened over the years, because it really has been amazing. But probably the biggest change of all is the result of our reaching out to the community and developing relationships with people so that they could become donors and visitors and docents. That too, because we can't have the museum without the docents. But really, when you think about it, if you go back to 2013, in the year, that whole year, we had about 300 visitors that came through our doors, and we were so proud and happy about that. And this past year, we had over 1,000.
That's remarkable.
So that really tells you something. And then our artifacts, our artifact donation, the first 2 years we got was in single digits for the entire year. And now the museum team meets once a month, and almost every month we're adding yet another artifact. So that change that has taken place over the past 10 years has just been wonderful.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, there's no doubt that the museum has flourished thanks in part to the passion and the dedication of Maureen and the support of her husband, Jim. We've got to mention Jim.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Thank you so much for your time today,
Thank
Maureen.
you, Beth.
With me now is Shauna Mooney. Shauna was responsible and coordinated our 2019 spring tea, which was beautiful at the veranda. She's also a volunteer docent here at the museum and my friend. Tell us first what brought you to Senoia and how long have you been here?
Okay, so I have been here for 2 years now, and the reason we moved here, my husband is actually in the movie industry, and so of course there's a lot of film, television, lots of things being made down here, and we were actually up north of the perimeter for a while and just decided we needed a change of pace, and we loved the small town feel and historic nature.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, you're a docent here at the museum. What do you enjoy most about being a docent?
There is so much. A lot of the things I like best about being a docent are kind of selfish, honestly, because I get to learn so much. You know, every time I come here and every time I take people through the museum or they ask questions, I get to learn new little tidbits and I get to see new things and learn new things. So I really like learning the history of any place, but the place where you live is incredible. On top of, I would say sorry, see? Just keep going. Okay. Another favorite thing is just meeting people.
Sure.
You know, you never know who's going to walk through that door, and you really get an opportunity to meet all sorts of different people, whether they're tourists from really far away places or whether they're local and they're related to some of the people that we feature in the museum.
So that has happened to me as well, and it's a wonderful experience. Well, Shauna, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Please welcome Dennis Sanford. Dennis is our current president of the board of the Historical Society. You played a huge role in our brick sales campaign for our Walkway to History. So please tell us a little bit about how it went from an idea to reality.
Okay. It's kind of interesting, Beth. The board approached me because I was not a member of the board at the time. The board approached me to see if I would be interested in kind of heading up this project. It was their idea, but they wanted somebody to kind of do the project, and I thought that's kind of interesting. So I put together a proposal and came to the board, and we anticipated at that time, or I anticipated that at that time, roughly 150 to maybe 200 bricks being sold. And as we started, bricks, it was very slow, and we were very concerned. But all of a sudden, not only the membership, but people as far away as Texas, Missouri, Wisconsin, Tennessee got wind of it, and we sold 308 bricks, which started to cause another concern, and that was, did we have the room for all these bricks? So suffice it to say, we have sufficient bricks. The walkway will be introduced on July 18th. And the history that is contained within the inscriptions on those various bricks is amazing.
Sure.
It's families that lived here generations ago are now forever remembered in those bricks. There are inscriptions in those bricks that give people the indication and a little bit of idea of some of the history of Senoia as a town, the movie theater, popcorn for 10 cents, and tickets for 10 cents, and things of that nature. So it was a very interesting project and a lot of fun.
So it's not only meaningful for the museum, but also for Senoia at large.
For the town itself, yes. For the history of the town, and again, for the families that lived here. And it was a huge fundraiser for the museum. So it was, all in all, on a scale of 1 to 10, it was probably a 12.
And the cherry on top is the fact that it's here for our 10th anniversary celebration.
And forever.
Yes. I'm so pleased to be joined now by Jane Hutchinson Arnold. Jane was a school teacher and ladies basketball coach before meeting and marrying her first husband, Mr. Jimmy Hutchinson, and then joining him in the operation of their hardware store. In fact, the Hutchinson name has been synonymous with Main Street, Senoia for over 100 years. So I know that you and Mr. Jimmy raised your family here. Tell us a little bit about something that you love about Senoia.
Well, it's a small town, and everybody knew everybody. And I came to Senoia. I taught 2 years before I married and 2 years after I married. And I came to Senoia as a young bride. And people were just so nice to me. They had luncheons for me, parties for us, dinners and suppers for Jimmy and me. And it was just so nice. Everyone looked after each other, and we didn't have problems. We just always tried to make people feel welcome. We didn't have many people moving in like we do now. And when people used to come in as newcomers, I always fixed them some chocolate chip cookies or some a pound cake. But that was in '96, and I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And then we just started to expand, so I didn't do that anymore. We went to both churches at that time. We went to the Baptist church and the Methodist church. And that way we got to know both of the different congregations, which was really good. We had a dog named Susie, and then dogs could run freely. And Susie was the town dog, and she had a perfect attendance at the Senoia Methodist Church Sunday School, because when Jimmy's blue truck was still at home, she knew we were at church. So she would enjoy that. And she got to be in Nancy and Bob Tinsley's wedding pictures because she was out there waiting patiently to see them. And one other thing, this is what I loved about it. Susie was roaming the town, and she was standing where the farmers and merchants used to be. And Miss Ruby Bagley came out of the Farmers and Merchants Bank, and she said, "Susie Hutchinson, what are you doing here? Are you hungry? Do you want some food?" And so by the time Miss Ruby got home, Susie was at her back door. Jimmy was the mayor of the town for about the first 9 or 10 years of our married life. And he was also written up as Georgia's youngest mayor. And he worked so hard to try to get the town to develop and to become more of kind of what it is today. He loved what was going on. He loved the town, and I did too.
Good.
I do too.
Yeah. Well, obviously, Mr. Jimmy has since passed away, and you're now married to Ralph Arnold, who is also a volunteer docent here at the museum. You guys are both involved in the Historical Society, so maybe quickly tell us a little something about what you love about the museum.
Okay. Well, I do love the fact that I met and married Ralph Arnold, so that was another plus. I like it that the Historical Society is local. Yes. You don't have to go far off to become a part of it, and everyone is welcome. We get to learn about people that we didn't know about, people who were maybe our ancestors, and we learned to see some of their art, some of their tools, some of their, how they dressed, and just how they got along with so much less than what we have. I especially enjoyed the programs, and Beth, you are one of the reasons that our programs are just so informative. They relate to the past, they relate to the present, and sometimes to the future. And you, and I remember Lynn Horton, I'm not going to try to name others, I'll leave some people out. But anyway, it's open, the museum is open to everybody. And we have people who come from all parts of the world. And one day I was here and a lady came from Montana, and she said, "Oh yes, I am the only person who has been here from Montana." So she put her pen on the directory board. I enjoy all of the members. We have some members who are just so enthusiastic and are so willing to help the Historical Society achieve lots of their goals. And we try to make the newcomers feel welcome because we'd like for them to join. You know, a town this size, it's most unusual that it would have a historical society that has the active membership and also a space that you can meet. And that's so unusual, and I'm so proud of that. And let me say one last thing. One of the best things that has happened to this historical society is Maureen Scala. And Jim too. But I'm not going to name the other people because there's so many people who have done so much work. But Maureen is so enthusiastic, and she just goes far beyond the call of duty.
Absolutely, agreed. Well, Jane, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. You are the quintessential Southern lady.
Thank you so much.
Warm and gracious, and we're happy to have you.
Thank you so much.
Our next guest is Mayor Doug Bierman. I'm so happy to be able to finally greet you as Mayor of Senoia, a process that took a little longer than usual.
It did, but thank you very much.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Nice
and
to
you
be
are also a past president of the Historical Society. Tell us a little bit about maybe what you're most proud of during your time as president.
There are a lot of things to be proud of. The organization overall has integrated the museum to be symbiotic with the Historical Society. So it's not just a historical society and a museum separate. We cannot be who we are without the museum also. But overall, just the general preservation of the Carmichael House, when we had to raise a lot of money to do the repairs on the roof and things of that nature. The board set a goal. We had a deadline, we set our fundraising up, and we made all of those fundraising goals and got that accomplished. And I think that built on the confidence of the members within the Historical Society also, that we can set goals and we can get them and we can actually do this, and people in the community actually consider this organization and this building to be of significant value to the city.
Excellent. And now that you've transitioned sort of as leadership from the Historical Society to city leadership, talk to us a little bit more about the value of the museum to the city.
Well, Senoia in general is a very popular visitation place. There's a lot of tourists that come into town, but that's mainly because of filming or some kind of activity that's going on that people specifically wanted to see one and done. When they get here is when they see the old buildings. They see the character that's actually built within this town, the history that's associated with this town. So that is what's going to be the residual draw that brings people back to Senoia after all of the filming and everything is done. So I think the creation of the historic district, historic tourism is going to be a really big thing in our future. And that's something that's not going to go away. That's going to be here for a long term. So I think that's a huge benefit for the city overall.
Excellent. Well, Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you
We
very much.
appreciate it.
I appreciate the invitation.